everyone. Good to see you all again. So, continue on from last month's presentation on the online presence. Today, we're going to continue talking about the other elements on your online profiles when you're searching for work. As we have talked about very briefly what is an online presence, essentially, whenever you write a blog, you keep or open a social media profile, you are having an online presence. For this round would be from one of the author who writes for some of the major magazines and also has published his own book. And Dan, he's arguing on 5 reasons why your online presence will replace your resume in 10 years. Now, just to remind you, this article has been written in 2011. So think about it. Back then, he was already more or less predicting this would happen in 10 years. And if what he predicts were true, we are really only about 3-4 years away from what he says would be coming true. So Dan, the author of the book and the article that we're talking about today, has actually quoted from one of the survey results to back up his belief in why the online resume would be replacing the traditional ones. So in one of the study that has been done to more than 500 companies with more than 20 employees in each of the companies, more than 1/3 of the hiring managers from these 500 companies said they believe the online profiles would replace traditional paper resumes. The study was done back in 2011, and given that we're in 2019, think about the possibility of how many more hiring managers believe that were to be true today. And so Dan, the author, gives us 5 reasons, but we are only going to focus on a few today. So one of the reasons he mentioned was he brought up the job candidate and the corporate culture. Now I'm going to read off from this tiny paragraph here. Employers are reviewing your profiles to see what kind of person you are outside of work, who you're connected to, and how you present yourself. Each gives clues to how well you can fit into the corporate culture. When employees don't fit in the culture, there is turnover, and it costs the organization thousands of dollars. So I wanted to touch upon a few key terms and some of the terminology and the concepts that goes behind it. So we talked about how in last month's presentation that the employers do take a look at potential candidates' online profile just to see what are kind of the things that they do, what might be their interest, what goes on in their life, what are they really like outside of work life. And so this is one way where they get to know you. But here, here's a term. It says, those information give clue to how well potential job candidate can fit into the corporate culture. Now this term, perhaps we could explore a little bit more. What we call a corporate culture or a company culture, it's like a company's personality. And there are many factors that comprise of a company's culture. The work environment, what does the company believe in? What is their mission? What are their expectations of what the company wants to achieve? And what do they expect of their employees? And also, what is their ultimate goals, be it financially speaking, as well as what is that they aim to achieve? Now, when the culture or, the company culture is a good fit with the candidate, then the employees who work in that company do enjoy their time in the workplace and probably can be more productive because they enjoy their time. But when the company culture is not a good fit for a particular employee, they would tend to be less happy and likely less efficient with what they do. Is this person a good fit? And does our company fit well with what this individual is looking for? Okay, and so moving on, here's the second reason that Dan was predicting why the online resume would be replacing the traditional ones. He says, well, in these days, we can't find work with traditional job-seeking strategies only. So essentially what he's saying is, if you do have an online presence or profile, the chances of employees for finding you would increase. Because after all, even if an employer, as we were talking about last month, doesn't really take much time or really has the time to browse your online profile, they would probably still be curious and want to take a very quick look at it. If they start doing a search with your name and realize that they don't find anything from you, well, then that probably wouldn't speak very highly of you because they can't even find anything about you. And so there goes with what he's saying, that if there's no online profile, no online presence, it could show that, well, you're not relevant. What does this mean? It's like, I guess this candidate is really not in tune with how the current state of the world operates, which means, you know, in this case, everybody has some kind of an account and online presence one way or the other. But the fact that I cannot find anything about this person online, I don't even know I would be interested in learning more about this person. Let's just skip this person and go to the next one who does have some online visibility. So this is one of the arguments that Dan is bringing up and say, yeah, by not having an online profile, some kind of online presence, well, chances are you will be passed over easily. And so that's why he does recommend that you have some kind of online presence by building an online resume, you know, either by having a website or at least logging to an existing social media platform where you can just create an account and manage your profile that way. Now, here's the third reason. Of course, you're reading from the screenshot, it's number 4, but then again, with the time limitation, I'm only going to focus a few here. Again, I'll read off from here. The traditional resume is now virtual and easy to build. And so he begins by asking, have you ever created your resume using Microsoft Word? I'm sure you have, but those days are quickly coming to an end. Professionals are going to start using LinkedIn's Resume Builder tool to turn their LinkedIn profile into a resume that they can use to submit to jobs. In this way, LinkedIn profiles can be used passively and actively in the job search process. Employers use LinkedIn as a search tool to find top talent, and job seekers use LinkedIn to leverage their network in support of their search. So again, this ties in very well with what he has been arguing all along, that, you know, something like LinkedIn as an example of an existing social media platform that is geared towards building a professional resume online allows a job candidate to actively pursue the work that they would wish to go for. Or, as he said, a more passive use of LinkedIn profiles would be if other companies are looking for talents, they probably could type in some keywords and find the ideal candidates to whom they're looking for. Now, having looked through some of the reasons that Dan proposed the online profiles would replace the traditional resume, how about let's take a look at very few tips here on how to better manage our online profile, which is a little bit different than the tips we presented from last week. Here we're being very specific on the social media profiles. And so there's 3 listed here, and I will not read them all of it. I will just get to the titles here. Now, the first one says get the picture. And essentially, it's just to place a picture on, say, your LinkedIn profile or on the Facebook profile. But remember, if you're using Facebook account for professional and work searches, then you want to make sure you do not put your goofy ones or the cute pictures with some of your favorite pets. You want to save those for private usage. Instead, you know, find ones that are more presentable so that when the employers, they can spot you, it would leave a more professional impression with them. Now, the second and the third are semi-similar. The second one, he's saying, show your star qualities. Essentially, what we want to do through using such kind of profiles is to show some of the qualities and lay it out clearly so that when the employers are doing some keyword searches on either Facebook or LinkedIn or other types of social media platforms, they would be able to find you easily, regardless of your field, and especially if you are particularly interested to be found by companies you are interested in working for, then you might want to think about what might be some of the words and the terms you would like to place on your profiles. Now, number 3, he says talk the talk. Here, we were talking about the key industry terms to describe the skills, specialties, and positions of interest so that hiring managers can more easily find you online. And so I will here present you an example of a former classmate whom I was taking the class with in graduate school. So now she has actually obtained her PhD degree in anthropology and has started a nonprofit organization assisting with the migrants and refugees who are by the US and Mexican border. So given that she is a PhD degree holder and she has started a nonprofit, there are a lot of skills that goes with it. And so let's say if she does want to attract either potential employers or other partners or even funders to sponsor some of her the activity that goes on in her nonprofit, she has actually listed some of the words here. And so in LinkedIn, it shows us the industry knowledge, but take a look at these terms. So research is a very big one, higher education, research design, which shows you how as a graduate or a PhD degree holder, she knows how to do proper research design. Now, she's also, the industry knowledge in her field, in what she does is related to human rights, grant writing, a very big element for nonprofit organizations, business strategy, okay, program development, for example, program evaluation, okay, nonprofits. And then there are some other skills which essentially for many who have been through the training like a PhD program in the social sciences, you would be really good in writing, editing, and quantitative research, for example, as well as social sciences. So these are, what we would term some of the keywords that would probably facilitate potential employer to collaborate with her nonprofit to make it easier to find her, using these as some examples of the key terminology. And so with that, again, I want to leave with all of you some of the references I have used. Other than the first references, which goes back to what we already used for last month's presentation on the definition of online presence, the other 4 are really especially the middle 3, are very useful if you have the time to keep reading on more of the reasons why the online presence will replace the resume in 10 years, and also on some of the studies and more tips on improving your online profile. Read up more on company culture. And finally, LinkedIn.com is something where if you do set up the account, then you have the capacity to access other people's profiles. But without it, without having an account with them, you're not able to read the other people's profiles or do searches. But I would recommend that you try doing that, even if that might not be the most popular thing to do in Taiwan necessarily. I would recommend you to do that, as it would give you it's like a stepping stone for building up your resume, learning how other people are doing it by viewing their profiles. And start making connections, because even if you may not be looking for work right away, they would probably offer some good connections and possibility for, say, a graduate school program that you might be interested in. So I would say the benefits certainly outweigh the negative aspects of not having one. And so good luck, everyone, on not only cleaning up, but also better manage and even create a pretty strong online presence.